ICE is now on the ground in Minneapolis, conducting a massive investigation into child care and other widespread fraud as DHS and the FBI ramp up a statewide crackdown. Federal prosecutors say that the total fraud in Minnesota could ultimately be more than $9 billion. ICE Director Todd Lyons joins us now. Mr. Director, thanks so much for joining the program. I want to bring your attention to this. This is a stat that we got from the Attorney General. 98 individuals were charged. 85 of those charged are of Somali descent. And we know that some of this money was going to terrorism and, of course, criminal activity. What can you tell us about what you're learning on the ground there?
Hey, Lawrence, good seeing you. Yeah, so ICE has been on the ground in Minnesota for a while now looking at these fraud claims. And one thing now the Homeland Security Investigation Special Agents are looking into is just that you said, that money trail of where this money is going to foreign aid. You know, obviously looking at any type of links to any criminal activity, obviously terrorism activity, you know, and one thing you will see is that ICE is actually out there going with criminal warrants to conduct these investigations. So all too often you hear that ICE is just out there terrorizing the community or conducting administrative work. We've been on the ground in Minnesota conducting criminal investigations, and Homeland Security investigations has gone door to door to a lot of these suspected fraud sites all over St. Paul and Minnesota, and we're learning a lot.
You know, Mr. Director.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the video. Today I'm just doing a reaction here to, a couple clips that I found from Fox News about ISIS new, they're in Minnesota. This fraud scandal has become national news. So, a lot of people who pay attention to the news are now aware of what's going on there. And so now ISIS is that they're coming in as the director of ICE is basically stating now they have criminal warrants because, of course, a lot of news has been coming out that ICE is just operating autonomously and they're, just, approaching any and everybody, not necessarily having direction. But, the ICE director is clearly letting us know now that, they have criminal warrants and they're going to these fraud sites and they're investigating. So, as the president and as everyone has been saying that's involved in this, they're really turning, their eyes and targeting this and definitely trying to get it figured out here quickly because it's billions of dollars here that we're talking about that has been scammed out of just this one state. And I was seeing another clip like a day ago where they were saying, man, these type of investigations probably need to go on in a lot of other states because they'll more than likely uncover, a lot of fraud that's been going on. They were saying that they should have a Doge in like every state. And I truly believe that as well. I know it would take a whole lot of manpower, a whole lot of personnel in order to make that happen. But, I don't think Minnesota is the only state out of the entire United States that's dealing in some type of fraud in some type of capacity.
Director, this is what the governor is saying in response to this in a statement. The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action. He has strengthened oversight, Governor Tim Walz's spokesperson. But they hadn't been aggressive, and it wasn't until your leadership, as well as the president's leadership, that you guys start serving these criminal warrants. So who dropped the ball here?
Lawrence, what we're seeing is there's always a tide when it comes to sanctuary jurisdictions where you can hide in plain sight. You see a lot of these fraudsters use a lot of the sanctuary rules and sanctuary protections to, enact in criminal fraud just like this. Secretary Noem has had us up in Minnesota. We had Operation Twin Shields with the FBI, CIS, and Homeland Security investigations. We were in September and November. We've been on the ground for so long looking into these states that are conducting these type of material fraud. And when Homeland Security investigations goes into these businesses, there is criminal activity when it comes to labor trafficking, child trafficking, human exploitation. And that's what we're looking at up there in Minnesota. And you always come back to these sanctuary jurisdictions where you'll find them, like again, hiding in plain sight and using those sanctuary protections to employ, not only illegal aliens, but conduct criminal fraud just like you're seeing right now.
It's unbelievable.
So, as the ICE director is stating, just taking advantage of, humans, period. You're hiring people who are illegal. You're obtaining taxpayer dollars in order to fund front businesses. And, a lot of people are, specifically the Somalian demographic there in Minnesota. Some of them are definitely sending money back to Somalia, and that money is helping to fund, whatever groups, that they're, saying are terroristic groups. Um, and that's pretty much the fraud in a nutshell. And of course, man, Governor Walz is going to definitely deflect the blame. He definitely not going to take the brunt of the blame. And I do feel like there's many hands that are in on this. Do I feel like Waltz maybe is, lining his pockets with a lot of this money? I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that far and say that, but I do know, man, it's going to be a lot of people that's around him and under him, and definitely, within working for the state, that are definitely lining their pockets with a lot of that money, man, getting kickbacks. Um, and of course, it's a lot of people in positions that make decisions that are definitely turning a blind eye to a lot of these businesses there that are taking advantage of systems where, money is just being funneled right on into them because they say, hey, man, we have a child care service, and, we need this amount of funds, and they're easily able to get them just applying for them and stuff like that. I think it needs to be a lot more checks and balances when it comes to offering up, federal aid to certain businesses. You just have to make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's when it comes to that type of stuff.
I want to get your reaction to this, Mr. Director. This is the mayor of Los Angeles, and this is what she had to say about Latino border agents. Let's listen.
Well, in a way, I think it's sad. I think that those Border Patrol agents are going to have a difficult time when they're out in the field and they see what actually happens in real life, separate from their training. But I do understand that their primary incentive is financial.
What's your response to that, Mr. Director?
Those are just sad comments. The men and women of ICE are all from all nationalities. We have so many that are first-generation Americans that just want to serve their country, and they want to be federal law enforcement officers. And it's really bad to politicize law enforcement in any aspect, but to take cheap shots at the men and women who put their lives on the line every day to go out there and serve the nation, to make their community safe. And it's just not a time and place for any type of elected officials to use, the fact of a racial profiling in reverse, targeting the men and women of law enforcement.
Yeah, that was definitely reverse racial profiling, to a T. What's wrong with Hispanics joining the border patrol? Like Todd Lyons just said, a lot of them are first generation Americans. They're proud to be Americans, and they want to serve in some capacity. Of course, why would you get a job if you wasn't thinking about the financials of the job? Like that goes without saying. I don't know anyone who, even if you're passionate about what you're doing, you want to work for some type of financial incentive. So that kind of goes without saying. But I get what she's trying to say. It's definitely going to be a lot more ruthless and a lot more tougher than whatever they've been trained on. But they've been trained to handle these situations, and who better than if it's Hispanics that are being targeted by Border Patrol and stuff like that. Who better than someone who can understand the language, possibly understand the culture, and be able to communicate more effectively, and more than likely handle these people with grace. um and of course, if you're able to become a border patrol agent, then you've went through all the background checks, you went through all the training, and again, these are first generation people, some second generation, and they're just proud to be American. That's just plain and simple.
Homeland Security officials are on the ground in Minneapolis conducting a massive investigation into the multiple ongoing fraud schemes happening in the city. Attorney General Pam Bondi is warning lawmakers to buckle up as this investigation is far from over. The AG also announcing that officials have charged 98 individuals so far in this investigation, with 85 of those being of Somali descent.
I do want to, speak to this here. 98 individuals charged so far in fraud cases, and 85, percent of them of Somali descent. That's over 70% of the 98, being charged with fraud. So, numbers speak for themselves. No matter how you add things up, divide things, multiply things, whatever, the numbers do not lie. Numbers are very consistent, and I don't know if these numbers are cooked or not, but here are the numbers that's being released to the public. So really, really speaks volumes, man, to everything that's all the news that's coming out of Minnesota.
Who is next on the line in this heightened investigation? Well, joining me now to break it all down is president of the Oversight Project, Mike Howell. Mike, thanks for talking to us about this morning. Before we get into this, I want to run this sound. This is from the manager at one of the daycare centers denying the fraud allegations, kind of at the center of this. Listen to this.
A lot of the journalism that's been going on the last couple of days has been really dishonest. I don't want to point fingers at anybody, but I do feel like what was done was someone came to our building outside of operating hours. When there's a specific sign on our door that says our days and our hours, he came outside of those hours and then claimed, hey, they're closed and they're still making money. They're using taxpayer money to work. And it's like, you don't come outside of operational hours and then say they're using taxpayer money. That was completely false.
I just did a video about this quality learning center. They misspelled learning. That's all I have to say. What are your operating hours? And you're super brave, man, to get on and try to defend it and stuff like that. I know you want to stand up for the company that you work for. And you may have been a co-founder of this establishment, but y'all might want to change that sign that y'all have up above this building, because it really speaks volumes,
Mike, how well or not so well are those comments going to age?
I don't think too well. I mean, you saw the videos not only in Minneapolis, but they're popping up in cities across the country. I mean, it stands for what exactly it looks like. There's a bunch of daycare centers with no kids. There are autism programs that are being ripped off Medicaid dollars with no autistic kids. This is part of the strategy of a broader left-wing immigration project paired with mass welfare, and we're seeing the most logical outcomes of that right now.
How far does this go down the pipe? You talk about all these other states and communities. I'm sure we're going to see more of this. I would bet my life on it, to be honest. But how far does this go down the pipe? Because, they're asking for Tim Walz to step down. Does he step down? Who's going to be held accountable? What does accountability look like in this?
Yeah, I think Tim Walz politically becomes more popular with Democrats. He's doing what he's there to do for them. This is their operating and governing strategy. You bring in third world migrants. You don't ask them to assimilate. Somehow by U.S. policy, we give them the right to vote over time. And you have a political constituency as a Democrat. It's your job to get them money by any means necessary, including waste, fraud, and abuse and programs with zero oversight. So Democrats, he's going to do just fine. But how far does this go? This is the broader national governing strategy. It's why Democrats support mass immigration, demand no assimilation, and protect ethnic enclaves from countries with, tribal issues and piracy as their chief economic output. They put them here for this reason. None of this is surprising, and it goes across the entire country. It's
I'm gonna close out here. When I finally woke up and realized that, this is just, the MO of Democrats, man, it just really broke my heart, man, because you have people who are, I guess they say foundationally black, whatever. They truly believe that, the Democratic Party is for them. No, what they're for is bringing people in who undercut you, move you out of these certain areas, put those people in these areas, and help these people get the same type of aid that you were once getting. And it takes aid away from you, and they're able to get kickbacks and things like that from doing this. They're able to help these people establish businesses, and they're just able to line their pockets by doing that, by immigrating people into your areas and moving you right on to wherever they move you along to. And once you start really looking into it, and of course, man, Republicans have their own thing that they like to do and stuff like that, and people will be debating and going back and forth for ages about this type of thing. But again, man, once I kind of truly opened my eyes and really started looking around, even my own areas and stuff like that, that I either grew up in or go by, and just start really actually looking at what's going on in the country. Definitely heartbreaking. So we'll see what becomes. Of course, this is going to stay in the news, man, every week, every month, until you know they actually start having like criminal trials and stuff like that for this type of fraud. So I'm definitely going to react to what news I see. I'm going to react to it. But again, if you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. This is Justin Paul. Peace.